Welcome to this lesson where we will be painting the sunflower. You can find the template on my Instagram Trace the Moon and trace it on your watercolor paper. For my materials, I have my watercolor set here on the left side. I have a ceramic plate, some water, a paper towel and my brushes. From top to bottom I have a Harbin Kolinsky Da Vinci brush size 5, a stiffer pointed detailed brush and a soft detailed brush. Both they are from Da Vinci. I am watering my colors with a pipette and just soak them for a few minutes. Then I'm taking some of my yellows. I have multiple cadmium yellows. The top one is a cold yellow and then I have some warmer yellows. So starting off, I am going to erase the pencil lines I have on my watercolor paper so they won't show through the watercolors. For the first layer, we are going to dilute some of our yellow, just add some extra water to it and lay down all over the petals of the sunflower. At the base and at the tip of the petals, we are laying down the color as we get it from our set, and then in between we are adding some extra water. So we are diluting our colors, which means it will be darker at the tip and at the base and lighter in between. And just keep doing it for all the petals for the first layer. When you're done with the first layer, let it dry completely. Then for the second layer, we are taking our warmer yellow, laying it down at the base and at the side of this petal. So you have to think about where the shadows will fall on your flower. So this petal is behind the petal that is on the right side of it. So we have to create a shadow area over there. So for the second layer, we are just using a slightly darker color than the first layer, and we'll be using shadow colors later on. So also here at the tip, I'm using a little bit more of the darker yellow, the warmer yellow, to create more depth into the petal. Make sure that the rest of the petal is also filled with water, so you won't have any hard lines throughout the petal. Let's try it again. So laying down the darker yellow here on the side, dipping my brush in the water, and then smoothing out the color I just laid down. Also here at the tip, laying down my color, dipping my brush, smooth out the pigments, dipping my brush again, and make sure that you fill the whole petal with more water. So I'm going to create a shadow color with this orange and blue. So if you mix more orange with a tiny bit of blue, you can create a shadow color with it. I'm just laying a tiny bit of it in the same areas as we did with the darker yellow. Make sure you smooth it out with some more water. And just keep repeating these steps throughout the petals. So laying down the darker yellow at the base, a little bit at the top, and then smooth it out with some more water. And the next step will be painting details. So we are starting with some easy lines, laying down some of a darker pigment at the base, going up a little bit, dip my brush in the water and smooth out this line upwards to the tip of the petal. Also smooth out the pigment you're laying down at the base, going up and to the sides, like so. You can add some extra lines here and there, but don't make it too much already because we are going over it with some extra details later on. Same here, laying down some of the pigments, going up, Then with a clean brush, I'm going alongside this line, smooth it out. Maybe a little bit here on the left side, some extra lines, but don't make it too much right away. So these little triangles you see over here are petals that are below the top ones. So there are shadow areas as well. We are using that shadow color we just made and create the illusion that these petals are lower than the top ones. For this one in particular, we are going more up because we see more of this petal. Going along the sides. Then dip my brush in the water and make sure that you spread out the pigments. Maybe a little bit more here. Make sure you fill in the whole petal. Same goes for this petal on the bottom, laying down the pigments on the sides. Dip your brush, spread out the pigments. So I am using this orangey color called Titan Red and Golden Deep, and then mix it with a little bit of my blue color and also some of the yellow that is on the palette. And I want it to be a little bit more darker than I did it in the first layer, to create that even more depth all around the flower. Some extra shadow over here. Also, this petal is at the bottom. Spread it out. Adding some yellow to the petal as well. And I'm just adding an extra line here on the side, alongside the petal on the left of it, to create this illusion that these petals are on top of each other. The same goes for this one. Make sure you fill in the whole petal. Add some yellow also as well. Then repeating the same steps on this petal as we did on the top one. So laying down a warmer yellow, spread out the pigments. Make sure that some areas are still lighter and some areas are darker. Then I am adding some details, going along it with a clean brush. Make sure that you bend your detailed lines because the petals are bended as well. They are not straight. So it will help the illusion that the petals are going a certain way. Then eventually your piece will look something like this, but I also added a lot of warmth to it. So you will see that I used quite some orange. Don't go overboard with it because we still want the flower to be yellow, but you can create details with orange, but make sure that the top petals stay as yellow as possible. But I'm also adding some orange in the lines. So when you already created the lines in the second layer, in this third layer you can just add a very thin line with your detailed brush alongside the lines you already painted. And in this layer I'm also painting detailed lines from the top towards the middle part. So you have them from both ways going towards the middle and let them bend the same way as well. So you can also create a shadow color with yellow, and you can achieve that by mixing more yellow with a tiny bit of purple, and you will get this muted yellow color you can use in shadow areas, just as we did with the warmer yellow and the orange. So let's go over the steps again. I'm taking this petal, and on the left side there's a petal overlapping this one. So here is the shadow area. I am laying down my orangey warmer yellow color, which are both mixed with some purple or blue. And also at the base of the petal I'm adding some yellow more towards the middle part, so I have a beautiful gradient from dark to light, and then with a clean brush I'm gonna fill in the whole petal. So this is only the second layer. You can just add a little bit of extra color here at the side, but you can create a more of a shadow area in a third layer if you want to. So again, laying down the darker color along the sides, add some water, and fill in the whole area. And you can add some extra color with the wet on wet technique here on the sides to create more of a depth, or do it in a third layer if you want to use the wet on dry technique. And then also on this side you're gonna add all the details as you did on the other side of the flower. Some extra deep colors for these petals on the bottom. So laying down the shadow colors. Dipping my brush, make sure that you fill in the whole area. And same goes for this little one. Some last details and then we will be moving on to the center of the sunflower. I will be using 3 different browns. I have burnt sienna, burnt umber and a sepia color. And we will be painting 2 circles, the outer circle and the inner part of the center. Starting off with the burnt umber, I diluted it with some water because we don't want to go too dark right away. The outer part will be the darkest, so that's where I'm laying down the sepia color. Also diluted with water because we will be doing multiple layers. So for the warmer brown color, if you don't have one, just mix a little bit of your brown with a tiny bit of red, so you can create a warm color. Some of my burnt sienna on this side. Make it more interesting by using multiple colors of brown. So you can also add some extra color with the wet on wet technique. Just drop them in where you want to be a little bit more warmer brown. Or with a clean brush we can pick up some of the pigments over here. Dropping some extra sepia here at the sides. Make sure all the white areas are filled in. And then let it completely dry before we are going to paint the second layer. So I mixed the sepia and the burnt umber for the second layer and laying it down here on the side. And I want a little bit of a lighter area between these two brown lines I just laid down. Just with some water, I'm going between them. Picking up a little bit more extra for the side here. Also at the top. Picking up my burnt sienna for the warmer area over here. Connect the areas with each other. Make sure you don't let the areas dry before you connect them with each other. Otherwise you will get hard lines. And then we leave the center a little bit. And fill it in with water. Just dropping an extra bit of dark color here at the sides. When this layer is completely dry, we are going to paint the center part. I am taking my dark color, and the circle we have on the inner part, we are going to trace it with the dark color. Then take some water to smooth your pigments towards the middle part. Go around the circle with some extra color. A little bit more darkness here on the right side. Then add some water to your brush again and fill in the area. So we have more dark brown on the right side and more of the light on the left side. For the outer part, I'm adding more of my burnt sienna, the warmer brown color you have. And then just take the same steps as you did in the other layers. So while this layer is still wet, you can drop a little bit of pigments to recreate the sunflower seeds. For the stem and the leaves of this sunflower, I'm going to use a few different kinds of green. I will be using my sap green, a dark green, and an olive green color. I also will be using a little bit of red, and I have a pastel green you can create yourself with some sap green and white. The red color on our palette we will be using to create some shadow colors with green later on, and I will show you in a minute how it's done. So these three leaves that are left on your sunflower, we will be giving them two different kinds of green, starting off with a light green color. Lay it down throughout the little leaf, all the way to the point, and then at the base of the leaf we will be adding a darker green color. Just let it flow into your lighter green, all the way to the base, and repeat that on the other two as well. For the stem, we will start in the first layer with a light wash of our green, our sap green or the pastel green, whichever you prefer. I prefer my sap green diluted to a very light wash, and we go over the whole stem and all the leaves. Then when this layer is done and the whole layer is dry, we are going to create some dimension with darker greens, starting with our sap green how it comes off the set. Laying it down in this shape and then smoothing out the pigments will indicate that the light is coming from the left side. Going down on the stem, I'm laying down some extra of the sap green here on the side, dipping my brush in the water and spread out the pigments, leaving light areas as well. And the more I move down, the darker it will get because there won't be as much light at the bottom of the stem as at the top of the stem. And don't forget to wet the areas in the little stems as well, because otherwise you will get hard lines. So make sure everything keeps nice and wet while you're painting other areas. Using my sap green to fill in this whole area. And then I mix some of my dark green, sap green and a tiny bit of red to create a shadow area, which we put here on the very bottom of the stem. And that is our shadow color. We also are using it here at the top of the stem underneath the sunflower, because that's where also a lot of shadow falls on the stem. And everywhere where you think there is a little bit of shadow, you can create that shadow area with your shadow green. Some extra shadow here in this tiny leaf to create some dimension. Make sure you spread out your pigments. Don't create any hard lines. You can create a vein in the middle area over here. Make sure you connect it with the stem as well. And then add some water to connect all the areas with each other. The big leaves, we are going to create multiple segments. So we will be painting the veins of this leaf with a negative painting technique. So what I'm doing here is that I'm painting the area outside of the veins. And I will show you with the second segment what I am talking about. So I'm laying down my pigments this way, a little bit darker at the top, a little bit darker at the base. Adding some extra darkness here at the base for some more definition. But don't worry, I will also be using a second or third layer to create more depth. You can add some olive green. So now we will be painting the vein without painting the vein itself. So the light line you're seeing represents the vein, and the area that we are actually painting is the leaf itself. This is what we call a negative painting technique. It can be a bit hard to envision where you have to paint which area, but the further you go into the leaf, the easier it gets. Then when you paint your negative veins, make sure they bend upwards the same way your leaf bends. And then on the other side, we will be doing the same thing, but there's also a little bit of space between the two sides for the middle vein. Going in for the third layer, doing the exact same thing, but you can create a more of a darker area at the base and underneath the veins to really let those veins pop. And then keep repeating the steps throughout these 3 leaves. And it gets easier with every leaf you're painting. Then when all the leaves are done, we can add some extra details to the stem. So we can create some extra shadow over here with only color or maybe some lines. That's totally up to you. I will be painting some lines all over the stem, here at the base as well. Some over here. Then when you're done with all your details and you're also using metallic watercolors, you can go over to the next video where I will be showing how to apply all your shimmery watercolors on this sunflower. If you want to see more of these kind of videos, don't forget to click on the subscribe button and I hope to see you soon.